lives in Bert. I can't take these people seriously. Like I can't. Like I don't know how you could. Like if you're a lib and you wave the pom poms for Biden and Kamala and Yas Queen, and mind you, I'll never let them live this down. These are the same idiots and assholes who were calling Andrew Cuomo Zaddy because he was reading from a freaking paper correctly during COVID. I remember that. I was there.
I think it's funny because you and I have like passed in very similar circles, but I don't think we ever ran across each other directly.
Okay.
Because, I worked for Majority Report, Michael Brooks, Matt Leck, all those guys. And, I've been on TYT a bit.
Oh, so nice.
Funny. So I've always seen you and admired your work, when you had the pod with Michael. And if you don't mind, would you mind like giving a biography and explaining where people can find you? And then we'll just hop right into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, right now, my main job is definitely, I'm a staff writer at theringer.com. Mainly my focus is NBA basketball, but we also cover pop culture at the site. So that's via YouTube videos and podcasts primarily. And so, I do some of our TV coverages every now and again. They'll ask me to weigh in on a movie or whatever. But mainly my bag over there is NBA, covering the NBA. And then, other things that I do work with TYT, basically, obviously, we know they're progressive media. And I do my own podcast, which is a political podcast, but we try to cover stuff from a left point of view, and not left meaning lib or whatever. Like literally normal people with normal jobs who care about their everyday lives, and we try to hit on the topics that cover that kind of stuff.
Now, I'm a Philadelphia guy now, and I have to admit that my basketball watching has really fallen off since Dikembe Mutombo and Allen Iverson took a game from the Lakers. I don't know if you remember that year. I think that was like 2001.
Yes, I was very, very much a huge NBA fan even back then. I would have been like 14 back then. So yeah, I was deep in it. I remember watching that finals and being shocked that the Sixers could even win a game. Yeah. And I think my shock was rewarded because they got smoked the rest of the way.
Well, it's funny because the Lakers, this is my basketball reference, everyone. The Lakers came in undefeated for the entire rest of the playoffs. They lost the first game, and then they swept them out, the rest of them. So yeah. It was fun for a night. There was hope, but and I think that's as good as Allen Iverson did, isn't it?
Yeah. That's definitely the peak of his career for sure. I don't think he obviously never went back to the finals, was never really on a team that even came close again. And so, yeah, that was definitely the high point of Iverson's career. People who love Allen Iverson will never forget the moment he stepped over Ty Lue and made a jump shot. So, yeah, that's a big Iverson
I'm a fan of him. It's okay. He just has so many like moments that really stuck with me. If we're talking about Practice is a very famous,
of course,
clip of his. But yeah,
of course, iconic NBA hooper. And it's it's no, I'm not shocked that he's engendered such love and admiration, even all these years after he's done playing.
Yeah. So the one thing I know you. So tell me about your political podcast. Like, what was the last topic you guys tackled?
So we had my man JP on last week. Go subscribe to Woke Bros wherever you get your podcasts. It's me and my buddy Nando Vila, who again he's doing that on the side. He's a freaking television executive. But we care about left politics. And we had my man JP on, who wrote a book about his year working at OANN, which I'm sure your viewers are familiar with being the ultra right-wing media outlet, right?
We have a segment we call Hog Watch, where we basically get, the most right-wing psychotic clip we can and just
I love that. I love that. And so, yeah, he just documented his time down there in San Diego working at this company and just learning the culture of this media company and how different it is from the kind of stuff he learned in J school. You know what I mean? And
He
he
might have been the
just,
only person who went that was in this whole building.
right, exactly. And he just, he just talked about the incentives of the media business and all of that stuff. And I thought it was interesting because he was just like, yo, I was there, one of their 2 or 3 hard news people. The rest of the people were there for opinion. It's like I told him, like, yo, I'm not gonna put my name on something that will ruin my credibility to be hired anywhere else. Anything that I do out here is just gonna be news, right? Like just straight up telling people what happened, which is what the news is, what happened, where it happened, why it might have happened,
Right.
and so he just talked about the incentives that drove that environment. And I just thought it would be interesting to talk to him. And so we did that. And, generally that's the type of stuff we try to talk about. We try to talk about like why just the muscular style in which liberals speak to people on the internet is not very appealing to people who aren't pointy-headed college grads, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
we try to talk about that stuff where it's just like, yes, we know racism is wrong, sexism is wrong, homophobia is wrong. We get all of that. But when the project is coalition building politics, you need to convince people to be on your side, and talking like some fucking conehead is not going to do it.
No, of course
And
you're
those are the
right. Yeah.
kind of issues we care about. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we beat these people? It's not by being the most repulsive, annoying ninnies on the planet. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah, I've always tried to like one of the axioms I have is that if you're into politics, you're already fucking weird. Like you're
Yes.
that
Yes.
weird guy that's everyone's at the party and you're like, well, let me talk to you about how Nancy Pelosi is actually a queen for going to Taiwan. Like no one wants to hear that shit. And so whatever is appealing to you, you follow politics out of intellectual curiosity
Of
or as
course.
a hobby or whatever.
Mhm.
That's separate and apart from politics as what it is, which is struggle of power groups, basically, trying
Right.
to
And
get
it's tangible stuff, right? Like
right.
it's roads being, paved somewhere. It's a putting a freaking light up at an intersection where a bunch of accidents happen. It's like stuff that people can
Whether you
feel, and
have a
that is
bus stop or not on your
right.
like that that is all
Exactly.
politics. And that's the thing is like being in touch with normal people is so important, and like having that
Bro.
approachability is so much better than not.
And the stuff that I tend to care about the most comes out of my world because I am a part of the Black,
Right.
I don't know, I guess upper class, you know what I mean? And I understand how douchey and annoying and disgusting that sounds, but it just happens to be true. And so like college educated urban people, Black yuppies are my cohort, and they happen to be the people who get on my nerves the most, who I dislike the most, right? And so that kind of sort of centers the way that I look at most of these things, because it's just like, guys, like, shit like misogynoir, like on my block in Queens Village in Hollis, where I'm from, nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. And nobody cares, bruh. Like nobody gives a damn about microaggressions. Nobody cares. And if you're trying to get people on your side, you need to meet them where they're at, and meet them where they live. You know what I'm saying? And all of this,
Yeah, I do.
oh, it's not my job to educate people. Yes, it is your job to build a coalition.
That's
fam.
liberalism right there, because like it is everybody who's a socialist, I think, or who is appeals to socialist politics. That is our job. It's our job to be out there and spread class consciousness and talk about why things are the way they are. I wonder, have you thought about John Fetterman? He's running for Senate in Pennsylvania. What is your impressions of him? Because he's got a complicated kind of persona. I was wondering if you have any thoughts on him.
I mean, I can't say that I've been following very closely. However, from what I've seen, it seems like he's taken a sort of meat and potatoes, for lack of a better word, type of approach, which I think is smart. Like people make fun of that shit. Like again, pointy headed academic. Oh, I spent 70 years at a freaking college type of people like to thumb their noses at the idea of a rugged sort of, down home type of
Right.
veneer or affect, but I think it's smart because people respond to it. Most
Yes.
people don't care about your damn books. They don't care about your jargon, and they do care about relatability and somebody who actually, even if they don't, and I think this is what like the Trump thing that people can't understand, like even if you don't, he has the sense to flatter these people.
Right.
And make them believe that he has the same interests and cares that they do. And people like to be flattered. Okay. And I think that's smart. I think that's a winning strategy to be down home. Like this whole professorial, I know more than all of
Are
you
you sure
guys.
you
I'm
don't want
so
to
smart.
vote for Pete Buttigieg? He speaks
Oh
Norwegian.
God, Jesus Christ with this
He's
dude.
5'7" and he speaks Norwegian. How is he not going to beat Trump?
It's absurd, Mike. It's absurd.
Well, the thing that's funny, it's like so as I'm Mike from PA, obviously. So I've been involved in Pennsylvania politics for a better part of 10 years and helping, and the thing about Pennsylvania that people don't know is that there is a massive socialist movement. We just elected a socialist from Pittsburgh, a black woman named Summer Lee, the first socialist congressperson from Pennsylvania in our history, is going to be representing Pittsburgh, which is the meat and potato city.
Oh my God!
How did that happen? How did that happen?
Yeah.
It's because we've been building this shit up over years and years and years. And like John, he is not somebody who steps back on the issues, on most of them, right? Like on, for example, trans issues. But he doesn't talk about stuff through the lens of gender theory. He talks about protecting trans people from a universalist sense. Like, why are we singling these people?
These people deserve rights. Yeah,
don't single them out. That's un-American to single them out.
We don't need to take the bait about, well, what is a woman? Like,
exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And that is why I like John so much is, it's not just that wearing shorts in February like every Pennsylvania guy does. It is
yes.
meeting the president in shorts and a hoodie in February is great. But it's also the fact that he doesn't back down. He's bold on his issues and he's approachable. And that's the kind of politics that I think you and I are trying to push for.
So, I don't know if you know this about me, but I lived in Pennsylvania for 2 years. I loosely went to Penn State Altoona for 2 years. And I lived with a bunch of guys who were from, I guess it's central Pennsylvania, like this place called Danville, Pennsylvania.
Danville,
right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I've been to Danville where there's literally, I went to my boy's pappy's crib and it's literally on a dirt road, okay? And these homies, like I will tell anybody who will listen, they have more in common with my Haitian immigrant family members than anybody I've ever met in my life. I swear to God. I remember I came to school one day and I had I had like 6 pairs of sneakers, and my roommate could not for the life of him understand why I would need 6 pairs of sneakers. And I was like, bro, if I could, I would have 60. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's what I really need. But like they would watch me eat and be like, yo, fam, like you leaving too much bone on that chicken or too much chicken on that bone. And which is again, like I say this because it's like the exact same sensibilities of my immigrant family members and parents, like so closely aligned with them. And another thing that I noticed that was interesting about them, like the way these fools hated the cops, the police, you know what I mean? Like, because they were not rich people from a slightly rural area, and they didn't have affinities for the cops because the cops were there to police the less fortunate people, right? And they were white, but they happened to be the less fortunate people in that area. And the cops were fucking dicks to them. And I just remember all of those sensibilities, right? And then, of course, I know for a fact that people in Danville voted for Donald Trump.
Oh, of
You know what I mean?
course.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and again, like like it's hard for a lot of people to get this through their heads, but it's like, yes, a lot of white people have no problem looking past racism. Whoop de fucking do. I don't think that's the end of the world. But
That's a
Trump
history of
was
America. That's just a blatant fact, you know? Like, of
right,
course we
but
are.
Trump was speaking to these people in such a way that they could digest. And I think that I don't think he would have the monopoly on that. I don't think it would be hard for somebody who was espousing, left politics in a plain spoken way. Like, bro, you want to get paid more at your job? You think you should have better health care? You think you shouldn't go broke if somebody gets sick in your family? Like, figuring out how to be plain spoken and maybe, I don't even know, maybe even sprinkle in some of that Jesus shit. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But there's a way to speak to people and meet them where they live. It doesn't, just because they don't care that Donald Trump said mean things about Mexicans doesn't mean that they're monsters who want to wear Klan hoodies. You know what I mean?
Well, the reality is, and this is just a harsh reality that people need to get over, is a lot of Hispanic voters don't care either. A lot of black
100%.
voters have come toward Trump more
Come on.
because they can see past that. And it's like, for example, like FDR, for a long time, black people voted with the Republican Party 100% of the time. It was the party of Lincoln. And it wasn't until FDR and they started to get some benefits,
right.
they started to switch over to the Democratic Party, and then they fully switched over with LBJ, right? So, but the thing is, a lot of the New Deal was explicitly not for black people, but a lot of it was. And they saw their material conditions improving. They saw opportunities that they didn't have before and their lives being slightly better. And they attributed it to the programs of FDR. So they supported him. Now, I'm not advocating for racist policies now. Obviously, we're well past that as a country.
No, but my thing is, I don't think we should be advocating for race-based policies either. Right? Like, that's why I don't give a damn about.
I feel like universally, like, and this is something an argument I've made, like universalist policies are going to help disproportionately poor people who in this country happen to be people of color. So you're going to
disproportionately.
Exactly. So you're going to, by targeting everybody at, say, like a certain income level, like say everybody under 100,000 gets, housing, you're going to disproportionately be helping people of color. Same thing with Medicare for all. If you cover everybody, the people that are disproportionately going to get covered are the people without coverage, which is people of color. And so you have a universalist message that's going to appeal to a lot of those white people you were talking about from Danville, who will also help directly and disproportionately people of color. So, and by the way, let's get policy. That is the message of like a victory.
And let's get this clear. We don't need to win over a majority of Republicans. We don't even need to get 48%, 40% of the people who currently vote. We need to get in the tens, bro. Like, this isn't like some huge swath of them, because this is a winner takes all. You get 51%, you win. That's what we need to do. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this idea that of course there are people who are so in the bag for that party that they're never going to be converted. But I truly believe there's enough people at the margins that it'll help. And another thing that I would love for your audience to understand too about not racializing these damn programs and these benefits is that the benefits of those racialized programs have accrued at the top. I know a lot of black people don't want to hear it, but there is classes within the blacks, okay? And the people who benefited the most from these racialized programs targeted towards we want to do black business investment, black this, black that. It's people who are already in the black middle class and upper class. They're the only ones who benefit. So all the benefits from the past 50 years that black people have got have been towards black people who are already doing pretty fine. And like, you see it in less like obvious fashions, right? Again, like, I can say this as somebody who is now in the black professional class. Like, all of the George Floyd shit, all of the corporate grieving, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they get another black person on their board. Some other black person might get a few more black people might get to work at the New York Times. A few more black people might work at Goldman Sachs. A few more black people might be in Joe Biden's cabinet or whatever.
Or might be a CEO of a weapons manufacturer.
Listen, man, listen. Okay, again, none of those benefits go to poor black people, working class black people. Not. And so these racialized solutions, it's no wonder the damn politicians and the black elite love them, because they get all the benefits of it. That's why they talk shit. That's why somebody like Joy-Ann Reid will talk shit about, oh, this is the White Guy Employment Act, when Joe Biden was trying to pass the big infrastructure bill. And Joy-Ann Reid is like, oh, this is the White Guy Employment Act, as if black people wouldn't have got jobs building up roads and bridges, getting union jobs and all of that type of stuff. Well, it's because when you're a member of the black elite, you like the targeted black stuff, because again, when they do the first female CEO of JP Morgan Chase who's black, yeah, y'all the ones that's in line for those jobs.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this is why, like, obviously class conflict is the number one conflict, and there's no problem. Like, capital has evolved. They're very willing to have rainbow capitalism.
So good, man.
Like,
they don't
care. They'll bring in a person of color as a token, while they maintain a racial hierarchy in this country. Like, they're happy to do it. They're not happy to like rearrange society to provide more for other people.
Yeah, and I think the mistake that a lot of people make, especially in the chattering classes in academia, is this idea that racism, that capitalism flows out of racism and not the other way around. That racism isn't a tool to reinforce the existing power structure. It's like, yo, poor whites in West Virginia, concentrate on the Negro. Concentrate on those desolate Negroes.
And this isn't just something that you're coming up with. This is like factual. We have the letters written by the rich white people saying it.
It's the truth. This isn't some theory. It's an obfuscation. It's like, yo, it's a sleight of hand. It's like, yo, pay attention to this so that you don't actually think about your own conditions. And it's hilarious because I think a lot of black people my age are waking up to the BS of DEI and representation politics, blah, 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 blah. But the funny thing is exactly what they've been selling to the poor whites for hundreds of years, is that a white man gets to be in the White House. A white man gets to be on TV. A white man gets to represent you while you live in squalor. And now black people are falling for it hook, line, and sinker. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, and the thing that's really wild is, like, we have this kind of liberal class of people, like, K-Hive, as like the foot soldiers of the idea of you should be excited that Kamala Harris is the vice president, as opposed to whether or not you have teeth. 1 in 4 seniors in West Virginia don't have a single tooth. I think that's a bigger fucking crisis than, whether or not we have Kamala Harris, a very wealthy person be vice president. That's fucked up to me.
One of my favorite segments that we ever did on Woke Bros, and I would encourage you guys to look this up because I'm not making it up. The CIA put out a recruitment video that was essentially woke.
We saw that, I think. yeah. But go on. Yeah.
It was this Latin woman, and she did everything.
I have imposter syndrome.
Oh my God. It was insane. As if having a Latin person push the button that drops a bomb on the heads of a bunch of brown people in Yemen, or sponsors a dictatorship in Central America, as if those people's lives over there are going to be made materially better by having a brown woman at the helm. It's like it's utterly insane. That's when I knew that this whole representation shit had just jumped the shark. Like, the CIA is appropriated. The CIA, dude.
Of course, I mean, it shouldn't surprise you, because like any corporation, like, actually, it's really funny because there was a discourse on Twitter recently about somebody who worked at Lockheed Martin, or one of the big defense contractors, who turned out, and they were like one of the biggest woke scolds on Twitter. And it's like, yeah, of course. Like, yes, there, Lockheed Martin is given the like top company to work for LGBT people by the Human Rights Coalition like every year. And it's like, yes, come here and be queer while we build drones and kill innocent children. Like, what the fuck is this? And capitalism is very happy to incorporate those kinds of messages and kind of diffuse radical energy, right? This is something that I talk about, but like the gay rights movement was very radical, like at the beginning, and it has become just another, instrument of the upper classes in the Democratic Party, this kind of college educated, professional managerial class, which has control of both parties. And, they don't want to go after the people you're talking about in Danville. They don't want to go after the poor black people in Philadelphia either, because then they would have to start delivering shit. Yeah. And to them, delivering stuff is, they'll give you a turkey on Thanksgiving, but they don't plan on like fixing your teeth or giving you a roof that doesn't leak or schools without lead paint on the walls. Like, that is way too much to ask.
And mind you, like, these people, their jobs provide them with top flight healthcare. Their kids will never have to go to some rinky-dink school. They are already home, as my man Jay-Z would say. Like, they are already home. They're good. Of course, they don't care about these deliverables. And again, like, I think another thing about it is that they're so invested in the system because they made it themselves. It's like, of course, the system is roundly pretty good. Look at me. I did it.
Well, that's the Obama thing. Like, how racist could America be if a black man can become president?
Right.
Exactly. Right. And that's bullshit.
Of course, never mind that this guy was damn near concocted in a Wall Street lab, like Robert Rubin and all of these cats.
I'm pretty sure his family was like CIA connected.
I mean, come on. Give me a break.
His mom was an agent, chat.
Listen. Yo, I don't even want to get into it. Because but seriously, whenever you hear about somebody just having these great jobs constantly overseas, where they find themselves in these different countries every 3 to 4 years,
like Pete Buttigieg?
It's like, bro, that's CIA. That's literally what the job of somebody in the CIA is to live in other countries and claim to work for some government adjacent situation while you're basically working for the CIA. It's hilarious.
Yeah. And I think what makes this like political moment is we have so many different paths that we could take, when Joe Biden got the nomination, became president, this kind of like do nothing liberalism is being exposed for exactly what it is, inadequate. And at the same time, the right is radicalizing at an accelerating rate. And like, yesterday, this is a big story before you came on, Trump got raided at Mar-a-Lago, and it seems to me, this is just my view and you can give me yours, over some rinky-dink bullshit. Yeah. I looked at it. It's like he mishandled classified documents. Yep. And there's really no specificity about what that means. And as you know, the president can declassify things. And the right-wing reaction is, get rid of the FBI. Get rid of the CIA. We need to arrest every fucking FBI agent in Florida. I kind of take them at their word. So how do you react to that, and like how, the inadequacy of liberalism in this moment?
It's just the lowest hanging fruit with these cats every single time. Like, I think it is a political win for Trump to be seen as criminal, to be seen as corrupted, to be seen as like this madman, megalomaniac who has no regard for the law. I think the suburban base of people, again, managerial class people that you mentioned before, they are genuinely repelled by this stuff. And it is a short-term political win for the Dems when they do this. So that's why they like to do it. It's low-hanging fruit for them. And it energizes the exact voter that they want to suck up to the most, which is the suburban, college-educated, whatever type of people. To them, those are the best people. The problem with that is they're some of the most reactionary people in the fucking country. And so they cannot be counted upon to be part of some long-term coalition going forward, because these people are reactionary as hell at their core. They will flip on the Dems at a given moment, man. Like these sort of buffer class people who, like, they're close enough to what's happening on the ground that they're like, basically disgusted by it, but they're also far enough removed from the power that they can never really achieve any power. They're the most easily manipulated of the bunch, man.
Well,
because they're actually there.
Yeah, that's the foot soldiers of fascism. Foot soldiers of fascism have always 100%. Have always been these, like, middling classes of people that have something to lose.
That's who the Dems love the most.
That's what's dangerous.
With these people.
Exactly, because Trump is making huge inroads with them, and the Democrats are leaving the laboring classes and the working poor and poor people to just sit there and twist in the wind, and they're trying to scrabble over a few percentage of those white upper class whites in, say, the Philadelphia suburbs. And you leave the guys in Danville. And I can tell you, back in the 30s, a lot of those Danville guys were voting for FDR. All right?
100%.
Like, they were voting because why? Because they got a free fucking house. There's a whole bunch of towns in Pennsylvania where there were programs where they literally just gave you an entire fucking house and said, here you go. You used to live in a shack. Now you have a house. And people still have that. And the relatives of those people are now voting Trump.
By the way, forget all of that. Remember the freaking Virginia election with Youngkin?
Yes, absolutely.
And the Dems, of course, run some country club, corporate board clown. So they can't even attack the freaking Republican for being a straight up greedy corporatist hack, because the guy they're running is the same thing.
You're talking about Terry McAuliffe.
Yes.
And he's basically a chat, just for the chat. Like, Terry McAuliffe was he was former governor of Virginia, but he was also like the politician that was considered to be closest to the Clintons of like anybody in the country, outside of some pretty bad people.
I don't know how you could think that's a winning strategy. So, of course, again, a lot of the issues, and we got to remember, this is in Northern Virginia. This is supposed to be the territory where the Dems are making the most inroads, meaning these professional class type of people. Well, guess what? Those people were annoyed by the school closings, the masks, all of this, like these issues that genuinely affect the quality of their individual lives. And they said, fuck the Dems. I'm going with the person that's going to send my kid to the babysitter, i.e. freaking school, so I can stop doing math problems, when I'm not at work. And that's what they did. And I use that as an example. And by the way,
it makes perfect sense from their point of view. Like, think about working a full-time job, also caring for the child and doing the education. There's a certain level of burnout.
Of course.
And the children are going to fall behind in education. They're going to get socially stunted. Like, there were real costs that were being paid, and people 100%. Got to their limit. The Democrats didn't have a plan. They got owned.
These are the same cats that these guys are going to switch with whatever direction the wind is blowing. They're not going to be loyal to you because they're part of a union and your party is seen as pro-union, right? Like that's fundamental to your existence. That the Democrat, they just don't offer people that type of loyalty. They just don't.
Of course, because people like Pete Buttigieg, the people that are at the top of the Democratic Party now, they despise organized labor. They're neoliberals to their core. They think that organized labor is a cartel that's going to cause inefficiencies, and they need to be able to move jobs around as they see fit. And they think the market should determine your wage. That's what these fuckers think. And the reality is that view is very unpopular with everyone who's not a fucking ghoul. So they're going to lose. They're going to lose hard. Why do you think Hillary Clinton lost Pennsylvania, for fuck's sake?
And here's another thing too, is that, I'm generally pretty hopeful about this stuff, but the Biden thing was very disheartening in the sense that, like, this dude ran the most cynical campaign possible and won. Like, he literally would not commit to anything. Nothing. He just was like, nah.
He just stayed in his house.
I don't know. No, exactly. And he won the nomination. So you just wonder how beat up and how cynical people are about the idea that politics can do anything for them. And I'm just submit to people like, yo, it's doing shit for Raytheon and Lockheed Martin every day.
Well,
Like,
yeah, of course, of course. Like, you know, this is such an important point, and I think you've hit on something really, really vital for us to talk about, which is so many people don't think about politics as a way to make their lives better. It's a way to, at the most, hurt the people they don't like or
right.
avoid pain for themselves, right? It's not about like, I have this vision and I think we should do this collectively. It's like, I want to own the hogs. I want to own the libs. I hate Trump. I hate Clinton. That's the sum total of people's politics now. It's not like, I think that we should have X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And people think, you know, and so why did Biden win? In my view, it's because that people were told and they accepted the message that he was the most likely to beat Trump. That was their only priority. They may have agreed with Bernie on every single policy point, but they were told and they believed Biden was the more likely thing to do the thing that they wanted the most, which was to beat Trump. That was their number one priority. So, and now we're in this cycle of just continual, well, do you want to help the Republicans? You better not propose that we actually do something for climate. You know, Joe Manchin's the hero. Bernie Sanders is the villain. Because why? Because you're ruining it. You're ruining the win. So what was your take? What was your take on this thing? I don't know if you were in the discourse on Twitter during the recent Inflation Reduction Act, but like a lot of people, a lot of these like, you know, libs that you're talking about went after Bernie because he proposed a bunch of amendments to make the bill better.
I mean, look, I can't say that I participate much with the libs and the discourse anymore.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, it's just so freaking tiring. It's so stupid and reductive. I can't, you know, like this idea that Bernie is ruining stuff for people is absurd. And I don't want to be on the left, because I've seen some critiques about it from the left, where it's like Cinema got to extract some wins for her rich, you know, sugar daddies, and so did Joe Manchin. Yeah. But like, I don't have a problem with that, man. If as long as there's actual good stuff in there, like, you got to take the wins where you can. Like, whenever, you know, Joe Manchin is allowing Joe Biden to do his job, we kind of gotta take it and move on. I don't know that like this, like the libs and Bert, I can't take these people seriously. Like, I can't. Like, I don't know how you could, like, if you're a lib and you wave the pom-poms for Biden and Kamala and Yes Queen, and mind you, I'll never let them live this down. These are the same idiots and assholes who were calling Andrew Cuomo Zaddy because he was reading from a freaking paper correctly during COVID. I remember that. I was there. These same, like, their standards are so fucking low, it's disgusting. And so I really don't
care. As he was killing everybody's grandma in this nursing home, he was sending COVID-infected patients back to nursing homes. And New York had the worst death rate of like any place in the country. He was failing, but they loved him anyway.
Absurd. Okay. And so I don't want to hear it. And the thing is, like, these people were the biggest pom-pom wavers for Sleepy Joe and Kamala, and yes, the first Black woman vice president, yes, queen, all of that, right? You can't look me in the eye with a straight face if you're a lib and tell me this has gone great or good or decent. It's been an abject disaster. There is no other way to look at the Biden administration and what he's presided over in the last 2 years or so. It's been disastrous. And so when they want to come up here and be like, oh, well, Bernie this and Bernie that, you guys have lost the plot. It's ridiculous. You see the numbers, man. Like, look how unpopular this dude is. And all I ever hear is about what they can't do, I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of these cats.
Well, I think the thing that you hit on is like, the problem with these libs is they artificially create barriers for themselves. And they allow the most corrupt people in their caucus to dictate everything. They have no ability to put pressure on anyone because they don't have a movement. They don't have like organized labor behind them. Like a West Virginia senator 50 years ago would have the coal miners union would come in with lead pipes and break his kneecaps if he didn't vote for their shit. Now, who are they voting for? Who's Kirsten Sinema voting with? Wall Street people. She's from fucking Arizona. They don't even have a single hedge fund in the whole state. Yet she's voting for the hedge fund shit. Isn't that odd? So that is the kind of politics we have today. And I think people, especially young people, they can detect it. Like, we're not, like, I think this is the generation that's the most aware of reality, the most focused on like real consequences and policy. Whereas other generations, they like this kind of like bullshit. I went and watched Obama's speech in 2004, and I thought it was that one that made him famous, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pablum. I thought it was crap. I was bored the whole way. I was like, how do you like this stuff? He's just lying about his past. He's lying about his family. He's playing into these dumb tropes about how America is the greatest. Why do you like this shit? I completely did not hit, is what I'm trying to say.
Man, look, I have a confession to make. I was a libtard in 08.
Me too.
I was
Sure.
in
Back in the
08.
day,
I was 21 years old in 08. I was definitely moved and stirred by the campaign and the messaging and the marketing and all of that. And, a black
At the
man,
time, sure. Yeah.
a black man becoming president, you got to say it loud. You know what I'm saying? I was down with all of that. You know what I'm saying? But we got hip to it though, Mike, right? Like when you see that, like the only people who benefited from Barry's reign are Wall Street people and literally nobody else. Look, I thought
that's objective fact.
I thought the Paris thing was nice. It was cute. The Iran deal was nice. I was like, all right, that's nice to know that we're not just going to go to fucking war with Iran for no reason. That was nice. But everything else was crap, right? And this bears mentioning all the time. And this is why
he just kept getting owned too. Let's just he never ever could handle the Republicans, and he just kept getting owned and humiliated. Like, and he never showed a backbone, and that was really disheartening.
But to me, the worst part was like the Geithner type shit. Where Geithner leaves his fucking job in Obama's White House and gets $600 million from JP Morgan for like some fucking investment fund. 600 M's. Basically, like 2 weeks after he quit his job. And this guy was in charge of the policy of the country when it comes to economics and finance. He gets paid off by the people he's supposed to be policing. And this is Barry. And this is the lib savior. He's the fucking Pope over there.
Well, don't you know there was Joseph Lieberman? He honestly, he couldn't do anything. He only had 59 senators. Joseph Lieberman just blocked him. There's nothing he could have done. There's nothing he could have done.
There's always some like mysterious, like it always just comes completely out of nowhere how a Democrat who normally is just so faithful and we vote blue no matter who, and it's just there always seems to be one Dem who will foil the great plot.
Damn.
It's hilarious, bro.
Well, it's so interesting because like I talked about when the Republicans got rid of the filibuster for the Supreme Court. They all voted for it. All 50. They had 55 senators at the time. All 55 voted to get rid of the filibuster. They approved that Supreme Court judge. It was a second page thing in the New York Times, and everybody fucking forgot the next day. No one gave a shit. They got rid of the filibuster. They did what they wanted to do. They won. They fired a parliamentarian, too, to get the Bush tax cuts. No one even remembers that. They don't give a shit. But now, parliamentarian says we can't negotiate drugs. We're stuck. Parliamentarian says 15 minimum wage. Can't do it.
Mike, in the history of my life, I never knew we had a parliamentarian.
It's because it's made up. It's bullshit. It's just a made up thing. It's made up.
Dude, when this parliamentarian shit, I was like, wait, what is this? Great Britain? Like, since when did we have like a parliament here? What the fuck is going on? It's incredible how they will put the banana in their own tailpipe every single time. Like, I literally never heard of this shit before.
Well, that's because, and it's funny because like none of this shit matters. Filibuster, parliamentarian, it's all bullshit. If you have the numbers, you can do what you want. That's the way they're set up. And if you make your own, if you make up fences for you to run into, that's your own fucking fault.
Yeah.
And when the Republicans are in, they might decide to get rid of the fence. They don't have to keep it. There's no like back and forth, and they consistently do.
And then it's like Chuck fucking Schumer is the Senate leader. I'm from New York. Like the guy, like you want to talk about useless, empty suit. Like Chuck Schumer is the guy that's supposed to be going around and getting people in. Like Chuck Schumer, are you shitting me?
He can't get his grandkids to tie their shoes. Like he can't do anything.
It's insane, dude. Really insane.
And yeah, so I don't know. I think that we have like a moment where, obviously with Bernie Sanders' campaign, like, not succeeding in 2020 and getting a hell of it close. Like the left has definitely, I felt like retrenched a bit, and people have kind of like turned inward and they've, taken the grill pill, or they have, focused on other things. I'm keeping the fight up because I'm a psycho. But what do you think about like the left going forward? Do you see somebody that stands out to you as somebody who can like help rejuvenate the left, and maybe in 8-10 years we'll get another crack at it? Or are you still waiting?
It's hard to see, man. I think the shit that's most exciting, honestly, is stuff like Amazon Union, Starbucks Union, basically workers on their own,
Absolutely,
for like fighting for what they deserve and what they need. And then, because like you're never good, like all of this shit, like marching in the street and doing, like, I'm not saying it's a waste of time. I'm just saying, like, if it's not coalesced or anchored towards something concrete, like a union or
an organization, as they say,
like it's not going to matter. Like the reason why Clyburn could do what he did in South Carolina, because he could call every pastor, he could call every black fraternity and sorority chapter leader. He can marshal the influence of these institutions in a snap. And so that's why he can just foil Bernie in an instance, because he has plugs within institutions like these churches where masses of people are gathering all the time and doing events and all of this stuff together all the time. That matters. So until we basically build up these types of organizations to anchor our politics to, it's not going to matter. Like AOC, God bless her. I love her. I know she's lost favor with a lot of people on the genuine left. Somebody told that woman that she can be president one day, and she's kind of trying to do it. And God bless her, right? But guess what? Because she has to do it within the Democratic Party institution, she's going to get dirtied and muddied by the incentives of that institution. If she had the backing and the support of some other institution, she wouldn't need those cats. And in fact, those people would be following those voters in those institutions. They would be making the weather instead of the other way around, right? And so until we build up these coalitions and these institutions, I don't see how we get anything done significantly. That's not to say we should stop doing it, but like it's hard to fucking, because like again, like AOC is just a prime example. Like she's charismatic, she's young, she's saying all the right things, she's annoying with all of her, sort of nonprofit speak and all of the craziness that she does rhetorically sometimes, but she obviously cares about the right things. But guess what? She's Nancy Pelosi's bitch, straight up, because she has to be.
That's the thing is, like, this is what happened with Bernie, is Bernie Sanders or Nina Turner, the biggest knock on them was that for the Democratic primary voter, they were not a real Democrat, right? Nina Turner said that voting for Biden was like eating half a bowl of shit, and voting for Trump was eating a whole bowl of shit. That's fucking true, and I think we all agree with it. But yeah. Of the type of freak that votes in a Democratic primary, that's not the general election where normal people vote. It's the psycho freaks that watch MSNBC and that kind of garbage. saying that Biden is a half a bowl of shit. Oh, well, you're not on the team. You're not a good team player, and that
you're not playing
space.
nice.
That gives space for the institutions to fight back because these primary votes are so small. And I think there's some fear among the squad and of being too hostile to the party because they're scared of losing their shit because they got something to lose now. And you're totally right. Like, I couldn't agree more, and I think I push that quite a bit, which is build those institutions, both ideological institutions like the DSA and also material institutions like that, Amazon Workers Union and a Starbucks Workers Union, or supporting the Teamsters. They got a left-wing leader now. He just won. He threw out the Hoffa people, last year. So there's all these interesting things that are happening with organized labor that is outside of the party. And if you look over across the pond in the UK, they're having that railway worker strike with the RMT, and the RMT union leader is coming out as like a major leader of the left in the UK because he's actually saying what needs to be said and talking to people that are working class. I think that is definitely the future for sure.
Yeah, that's to me that's got to be it. And again, like just this idea that somebody's just going to be a great politician with these great ideas, and that in and of itself is going to galvanize the people. There's just no proof in that concept.
Just needs to be a virtuous cycle, right? You build off of each other. You can't depend on AOC to save you. That ain't gonna work.
It's just not gonna happen. And I think the way that the Democratic Party changes is that the people on the ground start to make the weather, and we don't just pray that Joe Biden basically makes it rain on us in healthcare and livable wages and adequate housing. It just feels like that's never going to be the case.
Yeah, that sounds really good. All right, what else do you have to plug to that for everybody in the chat? If the mods could spam this stuff.
I would just encourage people to subscribe to Woke Bros. That's where me and
where
Nando
can we find
get
Woke Bros?
Everywhere you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, you name it, we'll be over there. So please subscribe to that. And just check out my work at TYT. I do shit for Rebel HQ. Every now and again they'll have me on some of their, their shows. And just check that out.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, and follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Big Waz, at BIGWOS.
All right. Yeah, great. Right, well, I can see that the mods are spamming that now, aren't you, mods? And we'll make sure we get you some followers. I really enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you can come back on. Of course,
this was great, man. Yeah, just hit me up anytime.
All right, thanks so much. And
bye, y'all.
Have a good one. See ya. Are you watching the stream unsubbed? You're making income inequality worse. You are doing anti-praxis. We are the only Twitch stream that will not accept scam advertisers, and I will never fuck you over by selling you crap.